We all know how savvy the new age customer is. It's like they have a sixth sense for when a brand is trying to pull a fast one on them. They want authenticity, consistency, and a genuine communication, not just a bunch of over the top marketing claims. Let's be real. Keeping up with those constantly evolving customer expectations is no walk in the park. It takes constant innovation to stay ahead of the curve with just the right touch of personalized omnichannel engagement. And that's what our next panel is going to be about, mastering the art of personalized omnichannel engagement. We have an incredible panel of speakers to talk about personalized omnichannel engagement. To moderate this panel, I'm excited to bring back one of Rositi's esteemed advisors, David Edelman. The stage is all yours, David.
All right. So thank you, Manali. And it's great to be here now with people who are making all of this happen. So if you saw my last session, you could understand why I'm very enthusiastic about the opportunities for personalization and the fact that the technologies are there to do it. But the reality is, it takes real hands-on thinking about how to change the processes, how to think about the strategy, how to set your priorities to make it work. And especially when you're doing it across channels. So let me introduce our pair of panelists who are just terrific. And I'm just very excited to talk with these guys. First is Ari Kapogiannis. He's the Senior Director of Enterprise Revenue Marketing at NVIDIA. He's worked across several industries. He's a seasoned leader. He's been working in the digital space. And what I really like about Ari is he knows what it takes to actually break through the traditional silos of marketing and sales and really bring things together. So Ari, welcome.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to see you again. Always good to be at the Refocus from Cruziti.
Terrific. Good to have you. And with Ari, we also have Uzair Dada, who is the CEO of Iron Horse. And Uzair's been in this space for a while. I've been around. He's been around too. He's got over 22 years of experience working with companies to create integrated experiences across the customer lifecycle. He works in the B2B and the B2C space. He provides strategy, hands-on implementation. He makes it happen. And so it's terrific to have Uzair here. Uzair, welcome.
Thanks, David. Thanks. Appreciate it and excited to be here.
Great. So let's get going. So Ari, I'm going to start with you. And we're talking about personalization. Why don't you talk about, in your world at NVIDIA, what does personalization actually mean, and what are you doing to deliver it?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is a very complex realm at NVIDIA, a complex product portfolio, complex ecosystem, and complex accounts that we sell to with very large decision-making units. So when it comes to personalization, typically in the past, in a single widget organization, we all know, the joke ABM might just be better marketing at this point with the technology and stuff that we have. We just have more of an understanding that we need to create relevant, delightful experiences to capture somebody, especially somebody hitting your digital ecosystem. You've got seconds to gain their interest. So it's all about relevance. Am I speaking to their industry? Am I speaking to pain points that they've noted that are relevant to them? When it comes to NVIDIA, if you go to the website and just look at the products tab, the portfolio is massive. So, and the massive portfolio has multi-decision-making units within the same account with people cross-pollinating interests. So it gets very, very complex to say, okay, I match this account hitting this particular page, take the home page and say, I'm just going to assume that they're interested in product X. Personalization at that point gets down to the level of intent at the decision-making unit and segmenting within there with the technology at disposal to identify that, okay, they've touched these, but they're really clustering around interest in this particular realm between activities and traditionally siloed parts of the organization, developer activity, enterprise touches, and then brand preference identifiers on the B2C side. So it's the most complex part I think I've had in personalization, intent identification in my life. Loving it. Very, very painful and rewarding.
Ari, there's just a number of variables you put together that I think is just fascinating. So, on one side, you've got, of course, the customer. You need to understand everything you can about that customer and who they are, but also about where they are and what they have been doing. Then, on the other side, you've got all of your products, and you got to figure out which are the right products, but then what's the right message about those products given their interest to move them to the next step. And so, it is a challenge piecing that all together. Uzair, you've been working with companies trying to make this happen. I guess let me start with the first part of this. In developing a strategy, you got to start with some sense of the customer journey that you're trying to personalize. How do you work with clients to help decode what that journey is or what it should be?
I think that's an awesome question, and I'm glad you asked it. To me, I think it needs to start with audience obsession. And customer, as Ari mentioned, is not a person. Customer is an account that's made up of many people. So that's not just decoding a journey for a person. And so
Mm,
the customer journey is no longer about a person journey. The customer journey is about an account journey. The
mm,
personalization is not about a person personalization. The
right.
personalization is about having a unified account conversation,
Mhm.
right? Across multiple channels. That's kind of the conversation piece, right? So complexity is ridiculous. So it's kind of
Yeah.
you're using different points, different data sets that are both first party that exist in your organization, likely fragmented, likely siloed because of the org structure, and then third party data, sort of bringing it together and saying, okay, cool, based on this, here is who we believe are the personas that are involved in the decision process. Here is sort of what they are doing. So, and you're not going to ever get it right because in the new world where 60 to 80% of the buying journey is happening off domain, you're sort of, it's a guessing game. It's not linear anymore. So, kind of really thinking about what parts of the journey can you control. But if you have the right level of audience structure built out and a swag at a customer journey that you think it's there, the next thing to me where it breaks down, and we sort of touched on it, is what is the conversation I need to have with these people? We often think about journey and then we go to paid media or we go to nurture execution. We never think about, and you touched on product, but product is a late stage game. I mean, I may know what I want, but there's a lot of stuff that happens before that we almost always miss because we are looking at our domain.com. I think that's a huge area when to rethink about personalization and omni-channel and customer journey to really unpeel.
Yeah, you're really bringing in the point of journey, and
Yes.
that a lot happens early in the
Yes.
journey when people are just trying to even figure out, not even but just what do they need given the
Yeah.
issue they're trying to address. I
Yes.
mean, people come in with some kind of goal and some kind of challenge, especially in the B2B, and they're looking for how do I address this? So sometimes there's some more basic information before you actually get into product. Is that something you see as well, Ari?
Yeah, definitely. Always go down to keyword clustering as far as intent data and count engagement identifiers, whether they're in our CRM, not in our CRM yet, but being able to put all that together for one account, a journey analysis per se, takes so much legwork traditionally at the
Yeah.
manual level, and then so much explanation that, for anybody, for instance, they wanted multi-touch attribution or account journey or often customer journey analysis, you produce it, and then somebody's looking at that analysis and they can't process what they're looking at. Okay, this is neat. It's not going to change what I'm doing tomorrow.
Mm,
It's nothing actionable. It's too much cognitive load for an individual to process that for
mm,
one thing and figure out what to do versus, okay, all the accounts in my system. Um, you know, I don't want to say the buzzword, but we're in the world of AI,
Yeah.
and we're getting to the point where marketers are going to have to get comfortable with taking their hands off the wheel. Success here really is going to be trusting advanced technologies that we have at our disposal, one, training them right, but then trusting them to make the decisions based on the predictive analytics, and then at the most simplest level, provide some prescriptive action for those marketers. So you're saved from the mundane journey analysis and able to focus on hopefully greater things. And then the machine, in essence, should be more efficient. I mean, we're touching on such complexity that for one person, even for us as passionate as we are, you could go down a rat hole for months around just a few key accounts, figuring out, all right, what's the spaghetti monster mess I'm going to make to personalize an experience for everybody in the decision-making unit or units within each of these accounts.
Yeah, along those lines, the latest stat I saw, I think it was from Scott Brinker, was the average number of MarTech and sales tech solutions that a company has is over 90 now. 90. Think of those silos, right? And then you talked about sort of, all this data. To me, I kind of equate it to noise to signal ratio. The more tools I have, the more noise I'm creating. And when I get all that noise and I hand it over to the salesperson, even if I'm doing it in an account dossier model that Ari is talking about, I've maybe filtered out some of the noise, but there's still a lot of noise. And how do we teach them to now act on the signal? And I think that is the biggest gap in the market.
Yeah, we were in the green room. Sorry, Dave, real quick. We were talking right before this about, reducing cognitive load.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point now where I'm trying not to mention technology names. When you talk about sales marketing alignment, the cliched battle always going on. A salesperson's not going to have enough time to learn new ways potentially to do things, or have a marketer come over and say, I've got this new widget I want you to learn how to use, and you're going to be in the platform outside of Salesforce and doing all these things. But when we provide prescriptive low cognitive load, a few key bullets out of your 600 accounts in your patch, these 3 are surging right now on this product, and this is the profile map of people you can talk to right now. In addition to your that's all they need at that point. The deeper level detail, when people want to huddle around it, you've got it. But we almost have too much data at this point for the people that want to say, hey, look at all this crazy data. Isn't it amazing? No, it's atomic level, and it's lost on the audience.
There's 2 things you guys are bringing up that I want to pull out. One is what I would call smart integration. Instead of just simply having 90 different solutions that could all become silos all over the place, actually thinking about it as what makes sense as an integrated stack that can drive the second thing you're saying, which is the actual use cases that we want to deliver. So I'm hearing you talk about we have to think through strategically, what is the use case? What is the experience we want to have? And therefore, what's the information, the content, and the kind of interaction we want to have at the rock face? So whether that's between our systems and the salesperson, between the salesperson and the customer, or direct with the customer, what do we want that to be so that they don't get overwhelmed? And then working back, what's the actual smart integration of the minimal amount of tools that it can take to make that happen? Uzair, when you work with clients, is that kind of thinking coming to the fore?
It is, and I think we sort of start with the conversation arcs, even before use cases. Like, what's the conversation? What is that needs to be? Because then the use cases come out of it, the engagement paths come out of it. We also talk about it. This is a great example. I was talking to a colleague of mine who's a friend, is a CIO of a very large company, and he was saying, I've gotten so fed up on tools, that for every time someone says they want to bring in a new tool, I ask them which tool are they getting rid of. There's no new tools. Yep. So net zero policy. I think that's brilliant. Like, enforce a net zero policy until you learn how to drive your Ferraris that you bought already. So I think that's a really good one. I think that the second piece is, don't only think about your technology in your domain. An example is, we work with a customer where we use Drift as a chatbot, and we're used to having Drift on your own website for kind of having intelligent conversations that's connected to your MarTech stack. And I'm like, why does it have to be just on my website? Makes no sense. If my content sits everywhere, me as an organization, or our domain as an organization, is really a hub and spoke system. It's a constellation. So if my stuff is sitting on a landing page at TechTarget, for example, why can't my chatbot be extended there? Why do I have to have disjointed conversations? So thinking about, again, not domain and technology as within my house, because that's how we are trained and conditioned to think about it, but taking the inverse role of, I am where my customer is, I'm going to those watering holes, and how can I scale what I do across those touch points in a connected stack, connected data way? And I think that's what's going to shift and needs to shift, because otherwise you're going to be stuck in your silo. And as kind of we were talking about, if 80% or 70% of signals are happening outside your domain and you're just waiting for that hand raise or MQL, you've missed 70% of your TAM, 80% of your TAM.
I think that's lost on a lot of people too. I think you're absolutely right that there's this key focus that website, 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 and that's where all the magic happens. When in actuality, yeah, I call them hand raisers all the time. Those are the people that have done the research for the most part, that are coming in and consuming and ready to go. And all those indicators off-site, as much as people, legacy viewpoint individuals want to eschew them, are the most important thing. And if you can get in those areas where those people are researching prior to coming in and raising their hand, it's a win.
And I think, David, the personalization has to extend beyond your domain. I think it's kind of the core point. So that means that sharing of that insight and collection of those data points, that whether at the account level or person level, ideally needs to be fed back to other systems where that is originating. And because I think if personalization is just in your house and you are still selling, it's the Zappos example of, I bought my pair of Nikes, but they keep sending me that ad everywhere I follow. That's a really crappy experience.
Yep. So you're talking about bringing the information around. Ari, one of the things I believe is that to get personalization, especially omnichannel, right, it takes a village. It's not just something that marketing within digital can do on its own. You have to work with other parts of the organization. At the same time, you're thinking through the technology. You have to engage other partners in crime across the business. So how have you worked with other people at NVIDIA?
Yeah, it's I refer to it as a lot of politicking, not specifically to NVIDIA, but as far as enacting that alignment. And for my team specifically, it's all leading with the data. Because when you pull in 10 different organizational units within a company that you're hoping all work together, because you want this omni-channel experience, right? You want people coming from a decision-making unit. And, David, you might like clicking on emails. I might like clicking on banner ads. Um, each one of these individuals siloed in their realm is choosing, okay, this converts better than that, so I'm going to go with this. When in actuality, the 5% converters on, say, an A/B test the web person's doing actually drive most of our pipeline, versus the 30% conversion rate that they've chosen to go with over here. So that individual operating in silo thinks they're doing good for the organization from a CRO perspective. So they're going with this tactic with no communication across the board that they've shut the faucet off for inbound, let's say, to our SDRs. When it comes to getting people to think outside the box and align, you're poking some comfortable bubbles. So a lot of these people don't want to listen. Hey, everything's great. Business is great. Why are you asking me to think differently, do more, or some such? So we lead with the data, as much data as possible, with all these tech platforms. Every one of them has their own dashboard and their own product. Nobody's got the time to go into every single one of these dashboards. So it's very important that all our data ends up in a data lake that we can actually slice and dice within there. I'll call it data dumpster diving. And then start looking at the correlations therein, and then lead with that. So lead at the stakeholder level, or the individuals that you want involved. And not all of them are going to embrace it. You're going to have, like, any product cycle, your early technology adopters, your laggards, and the people just are not going to convert. And then you've made those people aware, okay, we have this data. I'm not going around you. I'm getting alignment here. You can embrace it or not. And now that data is going to a wider audience, a leadership audience, and so on. Because the change isn't going to happen immediately. But at some point, you've done the right politicking to have those people involved that should be involved. They had a choice to embrace it. And now that data for the good organization that you have alignment around, accuracy on, is getting socialized to a higher and higher level to enact that change. So It's politicking by data.
So I see Monali's here, so we've run out of time.
What?
We could talk all day, guys. I just want to summarize two major things that came up. One is don't get seduced by cool new technologies. It's not just about adding technologies, it's actually thinking about the customer experience and the use case and all the people involved in that use case across your channels. And the second is as you engage them, really think through, not from your perspective, but for the customer's perspective, what are they trying to get done through their journey. And the more data you can bring to make that happen, of course, the more productive conversation you'll have. So thank you, gentlemen. As always, just terrific. Sparks are flying. So thanks again. Manali, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. And wow, that was really amazing. Thank you so much, Ari, Uzair, and David. This panel discussion was super insightful, and I think it's safe to say that you have set the bar for the rest of the event. Let's join in our next fireside chat titled as Fast Track Your Lead Generation Efforts During Dynamic Economic Times. And also, please do not forget to head over to the booth and lounge area to connect with our experts. You can even stand a chance to win an Amazon gift card.